Welcome to the first installment of our Transforming Manufacturing, a Digital Evolution Journey 3-part podcast series. This episode is called Tech Revolution in Manufacturing, the Digital Leap Forward, where we join forces with industry virtuoso Marty Apple to explore the transformative power of digital technologies in manufacturing. This episode is a treasure trove for leaders like general managers, CIOs, CTOs, and CEOs of mid-market manufacturing companies, offering insights into leveraging digital innovation for strategic growth.
All right, so welcome back to the next episode of ExOrion Echoes. Today we're talking to Marty Apple, who has a great deal of experience. I'll let him introduce himself in just a moment in the manufacturing space as it relates to digital strategies that executives are working through and trying to determine how best to position their companies for the next phase of their business. I don't want to go too far without handing over to Marty to introduce himself. Marty, you want to go ahead and give us just a quick synopsis of Marty Apple?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sean. First of all, I've been in technology, I guess, 20 years now. And 20 years ago was very different than today. And I feel lucky in my evolution that I started with more technical sales. In fact, because I would say the way technology was set up in the market 20 years ago, it worked out perfect for me that I had kind of major accounts. The only accounts that I was working with were in the Southeast, and they were accounts that had at least 1,000 people in their IT department. And my job was to sell a portfolio of 492 softwares to those IT departments. I used to call those softwares automation for IT. And I feel like IT and the way things have evolved has been a tremendous change. For me personally, I moved from that to CRM softwares in mid-2000s and started getting closer to business users and the problems and trying to solve the business user problems. That's what I wanted to do. And then I moved from just sales of software technology into consulting services, because I found that even with the sales of software, the software sales companies weren't as concerned about their customer as I hoped they had been. And they used to tell me, look, I know you just sold something last week, but what are you going to do this week? I said, wait a minute, I promised them something. I want to make sure they get what I promised. This is personal to me. So I realized that to get even closer to my customers, consulting services, I feel, is still the closest that you can get to provide a solution and a long-time relationship with a company, which is what I personally prefer. But it also means that in order to connect with companies, you have to help them understand that you are in it for them and not just for your software or consulting services deal. If you're just worried about the deal, what I've learned is that is a very short-sighted way to be in the market. And quite honestly, the companies that do that have difficulty over time. The companies that don't do that and the consulting services companies that do a good job spend time really understanding the customer and trying to provide a very robust solution to them. That's what I like to do, and it's helped me create account relationships with people that have stood the test of time.
So thanks for that intro, Marty, and we align on that point very specifically. At the end of the day, it's about building a relationship with your clients and becoming a trusted advisor and a partner to them, as opposed to what a lot of consulting firms will do, which will be sort of the one and done deal, then they're out, and then you're kind of left, to maintain whatever it was that you built or configured or designed for them. And to your point, some of our clients that that we've worked with in the past don't have the infrastructure in place to maintain or to build strategically. Their focus is their core competency, right? The business that they're running.
Yep.
But okay, so if tell me a little bit more about what you believe the challenges that specifically for mid-market manufacturing companies that they're running into now, that they're sort of surrounded by the digital transformation wave. It's a big wave, and it's a lot of their larger competitors have the means to make these changes. They're fairly large, and they've already made some significant strides. And there's others that are sort of in the wings or on the sidelines, thinking, okay, we probably need to start giving this some serious thought, but we may not necessarily know where to start. Like, where do we start this kind of conversation? How do we determine, first of all, do we even need this? And if we need this, what do we need? And where do we start? Where's the beginning?
It's a really good question, and one that I can give some advice and some considerations, but I can't answer for any particular company because I think it depends. I will say that it's got to be harder today to be an executive in a mid-size manufacturing, even some of the large manufacturing companies, because the focus has always been on everything that happens on the shop floor. My guess is you guys have spent money and time, and you could tell me exactly what happens and how it happens on every piece of equipment that has to manufacture in the shop floor. But when it comes to how many calls does a customer service rep take every day, you may not be so informed. That's okay, but I think it's also confusing right now because there's a lot of terms being thrown around. Digitalization 4.0. What the heck does that mean? Well, it kind of sort of means what you've done to the shop floor. Companies that are doing that to their front office and all of the other functions that do connect to the shop floor, but sometimes they don't connect at all. But there are some reasons to have them automated. And you certainly probably have a number of repetitive tasks that people are having to perform in the front office every single day. And if there are repetitive tasks, I think we all know that that's where a solution can potentially automate that and make it easier for that individual, make it a better department, and obviously that'll feed into better service for the company. To me, I feel like Digital 4.0, CRM has been around a long time, and I feel like manufacturers have solved almost all of their shop floor problems with their ERP system. And so I think that there's a tendency to lean towards how can we get the ERP extended and built out to do something for our service people? And is that a good spend? I would argue that it may not be. But the reason is because I think of ERPs as more of a system of record, and that is all of the transactions, all of the inventory, all of the supply chain metrics that you need to store and calculate. Great. The ERP system is perfect for those things. What it is not is it's not a system of engagement. And engagement is what happens with your service people, with your marketing people, with your sales people, and with a number of other roles that kind of fall in between those roles that are operational roles. But the system of engagement is every time you're engaging with a customer, we're noting that, we're capturing that, and we're figuring out where those areas of repetition are so that we can automate. And that, to me, is what the digitalization 4.0 is. It's the combination of looking at that and recognizing we don't have to go build a software program to do it. We don't have to extend our ERP, which is not designed to be a system of record, system of engagement, but we are looking for ways to improve the business. And if you're like a lot of the management I've been talking to over the last couple of years, you feel like this is my last chance to put a fingerprint on this business before I retire and go off and do something else. And I would tell you that the place to start is the place where you may not know it right now, but it's one of those areas that I've mentioned. It's the service area, it's the sales area, it's the marketing area. If you're still marketing the way that you marketed 10 years ago, you should be looking at your marketing, because marketing today has a very heavy data importance into the way that it actually works. I've worked with companies where they have looked at marketing and merging it with their customer service, so that the every single person that places an order on their website goes into their marketing automation software, so that the message that goes out to them to tell them the status of that order is coming from a marketing tool. So now that data is captured and they are able to market to that individual forever and ever. And if you're not thinking about those things, or if marketing is still going to seminars and getting a spreadsheet and trying to pass that out to the salespeople, there's a room for improvement there. And it doesn't have to be a big expenditure, but I will tell you that to be able to market and get into different markets that you've been into is only going to be feasible more and more with marketing automation. It's going to make it possible for you to not have to spend a lot of money or hire a marketing agency if you have a marketing tool and you have someone that understands how to use that. But I'm not saying start with marketing. I think it's a good thing to look at. When we help, I've worked, most of my sales consulting services has been with Salesforce.com. And so I understand that solution very well. I also understand that they are, in my mind, still the leaders of, and have created the whole term cloud. They were the first ones to come up with this concept of subscription rather than purchase a software. And so what does that mean to you as an executive? Well, it means that you don't have to go hire up your IT staff to build something. It means that you don't have to build more onto your ERP, which means that you need more people in your IT department. And it means that you can very quickly and rapidly, with a lower set of skills, improve that solution and tweak that solution and make it match the way that your business works. And that is probably one of the biggest differences, I would say, when I started software 20 years ago and today. Today, I can go make changes to a Salesforce system that affect everybody that uses it. And I'm a sales dummy. There's no way that I could have done that 20 years ago. It would take a team of people, and you'd have to coordinate that event. So it's a very different world. And I think Digital 4.0 to me is bringing the areas of your business that are not automated today, that have repetitious tasks, that would be an advantage to management to understand the measurements of how that process works. How quickly can we get through a sales cycle? Where do we get hung up in sales cycles? Marketing, where do we know where our best customers are? To me, service with marketing and with sales information, you can start to understand our best customer is not the one that spends the most money with us every month, because that customer uses all of our service resources more than any other customer. And so the lifetime value of that customer may not be as high as the value of another customer that does spend almost the same amount of money, but hardly ever uses our service resources. And the whole idea of service, again, those areas that I'm talking about are areas where somebody in your organization needs to determine, do we have repetitive behaviors that we would like to automate? And where do those exist where our experience for the customer is going to be improved more rapidly? If the service experience, the experience of your customer is more important from a service standpoint, if it's more about finding more revenue and driving more revenue, then it's the marketing and the sales groups that you want to look at. How can we automate? Sales is a tricky place to start, and Salesforce.com a lot of times engages in that as the first place to start for companies. I don't know that that's always true. I will say that it's one of the easier places from a technology standpoint and getting things set up. But in any of these events, you have to consider your people and your processes. And I would say you shouldn't have to worry about the technology, but if you learn and understand your processes, do we have these repetitive processes that we can automate? And you feel like the people in that group will be receptive to change, then I think you have a winning combination, because the technology that you can apply there, there's more than one option.
So, a question for you on that, and that's insightful because you're right. A lot of the implementations that I've been engaged in as well, for implementation perspective, was sold from the point of view that, foundationally, the starting point whenever you're implementing CRM is to start with Sales Cloud, right? That's leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, and I guess logistically from the outside looking in, that makes sense. But when you're already on the ground, your business is already running, you're humming along, and you're thinking to yourself, why should we even pursue a CRM? Like, why do we need that? And then when you come to the conclusion that, okay, I see that this there's return on investment for us, not just from the perspective of bringing in more revenue generating business, but also by lowering costs in terms of running the existing business, then maybe Sales Cloud isn't necessarily the perfect start, right? It's not the place where you may come to that one later. Now, I know you mentioned to me once before in another conversation about some of the return on investment that you'd seen with previous clients. I think it was a healthcare services company, and you mentioned that they implemented Service Cloud and they saw a benefit that they were able to quantify, which was double digits. Do you recall what that was, and could you tell us a bit more about that one?
Yeah. So I think again, it's your understanding of the brand that you have in the market, right? And if your brand needs improvement in servicing customers, because that's part of where things are falling down, then clearly that makes sense to address first. To me, that's a higher value win for the company. And sales could be one of those places. What I find is that typically manufacturer companies, especially, have done enough work on their service, because just servicing orders and deliveries and everything that goes into that process is challenging. But when they do need it, they can see right away servicing that is going to improve our customer experience, and that's more important to us. The more complex, the more long the sales cycles, the more difficulty that you have in closing sales, then I think there's some value in looking at that process and figuring out, how do we provide information that's going to make those sales teams more effective at what they do. I think the old concept that used to be a concern for almost all the salespeople is, hey, I'm a professional salesperson. I don't need to go to a system and tell you what I've done, because I've already done it. And I know what needs to be done next, because I've just been doing this for a long time. Part of that makes sense. And part of trying to convince them to use the system, to me, would only be valuable if you can provide them information that they can't get today in an easy fashion. Hey, if you're out in the car and you've just traveled by plane to go see a customer, and all of a sudden you're in the parking lot and you lost your notes and you don't have the background on the last 2 years of orders from this company, and you need that for your conversation, well, that's probably not a good situation.
You're gonna have to wing it.
Yeah, that is and obviously that would have to happen a lot, I think, for there to be a value for a business to go invest there. But I think your business should drive the area that you improve, not a software salesperson. Let's put it that way. And again, I'm going to mention again marketing only because I just feel like marketing with a lot of manufacturer companies has been a little bit offline, and I don't want to use the word antiquated, but not as sophisticated. And today the solutions are driven by data, and they are very sophisticated, and they can really improve and find new markets that you haven't considered before, almost by accident. Just by doing a good job marketing today, you can find many more customers than you. My guess is most manufacturers have had their revenues eaten into by companies overseas that are selling the same types of products that we sell here in the US. We used to have a great market just selling within the US. I don't know if that's fully possible for many manufacturers anymore, but the pivot is, how do we sell into these other markets? That's where the marketing automation can help you.
As we wrap up this enlightening segment on tech revolution and manufacturing, the digital leap forward, we're poised at the brink of even more transformative discussions. Join us as we transition into empowering sales in the digital age, where we'll delve into innovative strategies for mid-market manufacturing leaders to elevate their sales processes, harnessing the power of digital advancements. Stay tuned for insights that promise to reshape the landscape of sales and manufacturing, tailored for the visionary minds of general managers, CIOs, CTOs, and CEOs.